good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting for Greeley Evans School District 6. Today's the 22nd day of April. We'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Lemon, will you call the roll for us?
Director Azari.
Present.
Director Bentley.
Present.
Director Campos-Fitzy. Present. Director Mash. Present. Director Matthews.
Present.
Director Norwood.
Present.
Director Sullivan.
Present.
All board members present.
Thank you, Ms. Lemon. First on our agenda is to review the calendar. Just double check, make sure that we have everything on there that we need to have on there.
President Matthews, if everybody could please RSVP to graduations. As soon as possible, the schools are asking for who's going to be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lemon, do you have what you need to order regalia?
It will be here within the next couple of weeks.
So
Yes.
you've got what you need from them and it's ordered.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lemon, the RSVP is just accepting the calendar invite.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Those are the big events on our calendar. We do have a school visit on May 8th and the retirement celebration on May 1st. Anything else we need to look at on the calendar? Need to be aware of?
There are 2 school visits.
Yep. Let me s-
Out on this.
7th and the 8th.
Yeah.
7th and the 8th. Okay, thank you. It's a full calendar with all of our graduations on there. Anything else? All right. Move right along to board member comments and reports. Ms. Sullivan, why don't you start us off?
Well, the only thing I actually made it out to that I can recall right now is I had an invite from a student to go see a hockey game down at the Ice House and learned that we have a city league hockey team, which I did not know. I thought it was all just traveling leagues, so that was kind of neat to see. But other than that, that's about as far as I've made it.
Brenda?
Yeah, so got to do a couple cool things in the last week. On Wednesday, a few of us got to go to the transportation services visit, and that was excellent. The department really shines. They have just great culture there. We got a really great puppet show on bus safety, and they present that show to preschools and Head Starts around the district. And just their facilities themselves, their big garage or hangar, whatever you call that, it was sparkling clean, and they went through a lot of their safety protocols with us, and they go above and beyond what's expected of them for making sure that our equipment is safe for our children. And just felt very proud coming out of that visit of our department, our transportation department. They do a great job. And then one of our 3rd grade teachers at Billy Martinez reached out to the board of directors to ask if some of us would be willing to go talk to her 3rd grade class. Her name's Miss Shelley McMullen over at Billy Martinez, about what it means to be an elected official. And she got a lot of elected officials locally to come speak at not just school board directors, but other public figures. And so I got to go on Tuesday and talk to her 3rd graders about what it means to be a school board director. So that was a highlight for me. And then in this last week, outside of local things, the Capitol has been busy figuring out our school finance. So that's been really exciting to read the legislative updates from CASB about how that's going ahead of schedule, or at least ahead of the schedule they usually are running on. And what I'm particularly excited about is not necessarily the school funding being approved, which happens every year, but that the school finance formula is being looked at again, as we spoke about last board meeting. It's a 30-year-old formula that has been tinkered with, but never fully updated, and it's in need of an update. And so I'm really proud of our superintendent's efforts in that work. Of making sure that the dollars that our state collects for public schools are following our students, rather than just basing their distribution of funds on their school district's characteristics at large. So excited to see where that will all go, and hopeful that that will mean our school district will get a more equitable portion of state funds for our public schools.
Thank you, Brendan. Rob?
Well, I'm kind of like Taylor. I've been kind of tied to my business the last few weeks. Haven't had much of a chance to get out. Did get a chance to go out and watch a track meet and see some of the local kids compete. I also got a chance to go out and watch Windsor and Northridge play soccer, which Northridge ended up on the short end of that. And I got an email from one of the counselors out at Northridge High School that they have a celebration every year. It's called Spirit of the Bear, where the top 15 seniors pick a teacher that has had an impact on their life, and one of my former students picked me, so I get to go to that on the 15th. So excited about that.
Excellent. Mr. Bentley?
Yeah, not a ton on the calendar the last couple weeks. I did, outside of the transportation visit that I got to attend with everybody, I went to the Community Council on Education at the Chamber of Commerce last Friday. It's just really fun to be part of that and see the collaboration between Ames, UNC, and D6. It's kind of just highlights the special community we live in, and the opportunities we have that we kind of, I think, take for granted and forget that are special until you talk to people that are new or coming, and it's such a big draw to be able to have all three working together like that. But the transportation visit was exciting. It's the first time I've been able to be out there. I think it got canceled last time we had it scheduled. And Kent and his team are just doing an amazing job. Just from the like Brenda said, the cleanliness, the shopping, and you literally could eat off the floor, which is rare in a mechanic shop, to just the pride they take in their jobs and their equipment. It was nice to see them wash the buses as they come back from every trip, and the way that they were just proud of what they had going, and finally mostly fully staffed, which is pretty rare in a CDL era as of today. So that was a fun trip, so appreciate that.
Dorn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did 3 activities since we had the last board meeting. The first is I had the pleasure of attending my first school accountability committee meeting at Centennial Elementary School, where I'm the ambassador to that school, and it went really, really well. I was impressed with the work of the staff there. Of course, as you drive up to Centennial, you realize that there's a lot of construction work taking place, and they've had to redo some traffic patterns, but the school staff and students seem to be dealing with it really, really well, and they're excited about their new secure entryway that will be built there. And then Centennial also has a lot to celebrate, as they are now a performance level school, and they were happy with that. They also have excellent parent communication and involvement. They had 100% attendance at the October-March parent-teacher conferences and high community attendance at their music concerts. I also attended the Refugee Quarterly Community Consultation. Natalie normally goes to those, and I represented in her stead. The meeting centered around updates from all levels of the national level on down to our local community. The concerns have stayed about the same over the past several quarters, including a high level of arrivals and an unsteady flow of resettlements. They also have struggled to document delays regarding newcomers. I don't know how that affects our school district. There has been increased community support in Q2 with volunteer hours of 200%, and fiscal in-kind donations increased by 500%. And there was a donation of a van to help transportation needs. When asked for common issues that there might be throughout the different agencies in our area, the 2 that were most prevalent were a need to find housing solutions for our newcomers and to continue to provide education services so that newcomers understand the community better, including our traffic laws. Many people come from countries where rules are flexible, and that is not the case here. And new arrivals need to be prepared for that better as they settle into our community. And finally, I also joined the other board members with transportation, and it just goes to show that you learn new things about old things every day. I had no idea that the school district had a puppet show that they take on the road to teach school safety to the little ones. And I thought that was just fantastic. And it boggles my mind how they schedule everything. I look at that and it's wondrous to me. So thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Doran. Ms. Mash?
Well, I am sorry that I missed the transportation visit, but I very much enjoyed our update. And I believe there is an article in the Tribune about the Greeley Central graduate who is working there in the mechanic shop. So that's wonderful to see. She a passion for that and serving in District 6 again. I am just, I guess, going to highlight a couple of opportunities that students have had, and some of these are, my own children, but just, I'm so thankful for the opportunities that our students in District 6 have. First, I got to go to the Greeley Philharmonic Youth Orchestra concert, directed by Mr. Azari, and I also really enjoy all of the opportunities that kids from different schools have to work together. So I don't know how many different schools are represented in the youth orchestra. I would say 6 or 7, something like that, but they sounded amazing. They were playing a complicated piece, and then they had a member of the Greeley Philharmonic Orchestra come and play, and she was just fabulous to watch. And I just would assume that that's a mentor relationship, the goals that these students can have, but also she completely treated them like they were just part of her orchestra. Just her facial expression was just like, and here we go, and I have this amazing group backing me, so that was really fun. And then today, the advanced manufacturing group from Greeley Central got to visit the wastewater treatment plant, and also I believe Chevron, and learn about different, I think the class they're taking is called Introduction to Energy Technologies, but I haven't heard all about it yet from my son, but just his text was like, this is so interesting. And I really appreciate the opportunities just to learn about careers and non-traditional things, I guess, that, I didn't have those opportunities. So again, I just applaud District 6 for the ways that we have continued to innovate opportunities for our students.
Thank you, Natalie. I don't have much to add. Yes, the transportation visit was fantastic. They do such a wonderful job, and the way that team has embraced that department and the needs of that department to go above and beyond. It really makes a difference in the district and for our students. I did get to go to Jazz Fest. Both Franklin and Greeley Central played at Jazz Fest. I didn't get to see Franklin, but I did get to see Greeley Central. They were fantastic as always, and did get to testify last week before the House Committee for House Bill 1448, which would, if it were to pass, and hopefully it will, would mean not just a more just funding formula for the entire state, but be a great help for this district. So that's all I've got.
May I speak to that?
Oh, certainly.
Since I don't have to turn on the mic, since you brought up, if I may. So I want to first say that Michael stayed on the phone at least 6 hours waiting to testify. So he gave a huge amount of his personal time the afternoon and well into the evening to provide his testimony. And I don't know if you were able to listen to the rest of the hearing because it was very late. It was almost 9 o'clock before it was over that night. But when Assistant Majority Leader Bacon gave her comments, she quoted you.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Hopefully it was a good quote.
It was very good. So she used your quote about the cure for cancer and that student is somewhere. And she did call you the superintendent from the Greeley Evans School District, by the way, which is okay. But she said, and you heard the superintendent from the Greeley School District. But what I share that with you, Mr. Matthews, because I want you to know how meaningful your comments were. And I want you to know that your time did make a difference that day and that evening. For her to come back to your comments was significant in the testimony, and this is not an easy bill to pass. They've added a couple of studies in there that would come as a part of this bill, one around average daily attendance or average daily membership that indicates we're going to move to that model when that law hasn't even been passed yet, to move to that model. And then another study where the dollars would flow directly to the school site, to the student. And so we've got many advocates for K-12, pre-K-12, who are really struggling with that second one because it sounds and feels a lot like vouchers. And so folks who have not been pro-voucher are very worried about that. And so folks that might have supported a more equitable funding plan are now saying, wait a minute, I can't support it if we're looking at backpacking dollars. So a lot of big work still occurring. They were trying to rewrite some amendments today. There was one or two amendments proposed in the House Ed Committee, but nothing was approved. So it will probably go to appropriations at Thursday at the earliest of this week to get a fiscal note and to determine cost. But it's a heavy lift. And so if you are inclined to support this change and you do have relationships with legislators, this is the time to reach out and let them know why this is so important, and that, you know, we're counting on them to have the courage and the will to take this on. They do have some significant opposition from some very large districts that won't increase in funding. So the promise is to hold everyone harmless, no one goes backwards, but there are districts who are saying there's not enough money statewide, and we don't want to support any kind of a new funding formula until there's more money for everybody on the base, which is true, right? But they're not. But to do so would cost $500 million, and we don't see $500 million or $1 billion, Megan?
It would be at least $1 billion.
Yeah, I
At
would
least
think.
$1 billion a year, annually. And so, yeah, because what they're looking at spending right now is spending down $500 million over the next 6 years. So we know, we remember Amendment 73, is that the right one? Whatever.
23.
Amendment 23, what was the last one? Amendment 70 something, that the superintendents did come together on and got behind, and it failed miserably statewide. It was a state funding formula. And so, you know, the opposition says there are losers in this, and there's winners in this, and I would argue that District 6 has been a loser in state funding for decades. And our children deserve more. And as long as you all continue to be supportive, I'm going to continue to advocate with our legislators and continue to support Speaker McCluskey, who's taken this fight on. And I would encourage any of you all to do so as well. The other piece, so you know, if you do reach out to legislators, the other piece that is a primary argument is that there is a concern over sustainability. How will we continue to fund this over time when we've just gotten rid of the budget stabilization factor? How will we fund this in years to come without reinstituting the budget stabilization factor? And Speaker McCluskey and the team who've been working on this, that they feel strongly, and they have the data that suggests the state can afford this, that we spend down the state ed fund, and every year we put additional money into the state ed fund. And they believe you do this by paying down the state ed fund. So, and it's a long runway. Would be 6 years before it would be fully implemented. We wouldn't see any of it for the 24-25 school year. It would not, if it passes this spring, we still have another year to probably pass more laws around what it means for it to be implemented in 25-26. So, thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably should have put it on the agenda, but we didn't know. We didn't know where we'd be when we were setting the agenda at the hearing last week. So.
And can I highlight how impressive it is that they remembered Michael's comment, because there were 45 speakers over 5 hours. So that's pretty cool that President Matthews.
Yeah, and there were some very impressive speakers right alongside Michael. So for you to come to the table and Greeley to be recognized in that way was. Thank you. And he was covering for me. So thank you for doing that, so that I could be with my mother at the oncologist that afternoon. Had we known testimony was going to be at 7 o'clock that night, I could have testified. I could have testified, yeah. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brenda, for saying that.
Next on our agenda is our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee update. So I'll invite Mr. Henson. Jeff here. Welcome, Jeff.
Okay, so this bond update is going to be a little bit different than you normally get. You get about 150 pictures and a lot of blah, blah about construction progress. And we are kind of winding down to the end. And so this is, presentation stems from the work that I've been working with the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, which we established soon after the bond passed. And their job primarily has been to oversee the spending of the proceeds that we had. So I want to kind of go through that process with you. Sitting next to me is Jeff Kirtley, who we hired the day after the bond. We hired RLH Engineering as our owner's rep. They have been with, basically sitting like this, since the day after the bond passed. Their company has been sold. They're now called Answer Advisory, which is a very big company, but we have still our local blood at stake in this along with us. And they have done a tremendous job of helping us get through a lot of the hurdles, the political hurdles, the permitting hurdles, sometimes conflicts between contractors and architects and things like that. So Jeff personally has been with us for quite a bit, and so appreciate him sitting here. So if I trip up, he knows everything there is to know about the bond, right, Jeff? More than you want to know. Okay, so the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, this is kind of what their charge was, gave an independent review of the projects that comprise the bond program. And really what it allowed us to do was to use the proceeds. So when we went for a bond for $395 million, we had that set for how we would spend that money. We have to assume there's no proceeds. We can't promise to do work that we don't have funding for. And so if you remember, we had $1 billion in needs, and we passed a $395 million bond. So obviously we had to prioritize the work. And prior to the bond, we had done that and said, okay, each school, this would be our new build. Here are a couple places we need an addition. Here are things we're gonna focus on: carpet paint, door hardware, vestibules in all our schools. And then beyond that, we just had to hit that short list of prioritized maintenance to get that through. And so what the Bond Oversight Committee did was help us to get through some of the extra work that we could do with the bond proceeds. And so here was our team. We started out meeting in Zoom because if you remember, soon after the bond passed, we went into COVID. And so I have 4 of them are here today. Jill Barnes is over here. We have Brandon Hayes back here, Chris Leffler, and Dr. Berdarius. 4 of them were able to come here today. And so we really appreciate, they've been very active in this group. And we basically met quarterly. So the bond passed in November. We had our first meeting in April because we didn't really need a lot of guidance. That bond passed. We're trying to get Greeley West down the road, trying to get McAuliffe and Chapello down the road. And then as we started getting in planning for the other projects, we brought them on in April. And we had basically quarterly meetings, which began in Zoom, and then we also met several times on locations where I could give them tours of the facility. I also had quarterly updates that I shared with them on actual construction progress of our projects. And so this also was kind of our starting point. Here's where you see a mix of our Bond Oversight Committee and then our Community Facility Master Planning Committee that we did before the bond. So when you look through this statement, this was our shared vision that we shared through CBOC. And once in a while we would revisit this, and I would ask, are we on track with the vision for our schools based on the community? And so I hope in the places that you've been and seen that you see some key words in there and you can see that, whether it's an addition on a school, whether it's just a renovation to a school, or if it's a new build. We have kept this to heart from the beginning, and that was in 2018 when we did that work. Also, prior to the bond, here's where I talked about the prioritized maintenance. Every single school on here, I just picked a couple. You can see charter schools on the left. You can see I got Central and Scott there. Every school had a flyer also in Spanish, which I'm showing over there on the right. So this showed for each site the work that would be done based on those prioritized maintenance schedules. There may be one school that would say roof replacement because it was greatly needed there, but it doesn't say that in all the schools. It might say a boiler at one school or another. So these were, as we entered every project, this was our starting point for each one, and we laid those out prior to the election. So that work was all done prior to the election. So it was our job to make sure, did we do all of the work we promised in the bond? And the answer to that is absolutely we did. Covered every one of those, but with bond proceeds, we were able to go beyond. So as we come to this summer, you've seen this cheesy spreadsheet I've used 500 times, but we're now getting to the bottom. And so you'll see the last projects down there in pink, and then Shawsheen Elementary School, we're in phase 2 of. Once these projects are finished this summer, we will be completed with the bond. So that's in how many years? It's a quiz. Did you say 4 or 5?
4 since we started work.
Yeah, it'll be less than 5 years and we will complete it. So we're right on target from, I haven't changed those dates at the top. We've been right on target since we started the bond, and we'll finish on target. So that's a good sign. So overall, bond budget, here's something that I want to show you, talk to you a little bit about the planning before the bond. So our position when we passed the bond and then sold the bond was very important. And it was because of that site that Dr. Pilch was a part of that planning. We need to be prepared to go for a bond in 2019 was very important. And then also a year ahead of time, Megan's department, you've seen all the financial reports that she does, is getting our district in a position where it would be favorable for us to sell bonds. So, foresight and planning with the timing of the election. So in 2019, there were $795 million along the Front Range that passed in the bond issue. 395 of that was for our district. So the fact that there was somewhat limited competition there, a lot of schools had gone out before that, others were holding back. Of course, nobody saw COVID coming, but our position in that slot was very important because there wasn't a lot of competition. And then also being prepared to sell the bonds early, which I'll get to here in a second. Another thing in the planning, and coming back to this form, if you look what's in the pink, we planned on getting our largest projects out early, with the largest one being Greeley West High School. We needed to get these projects underway earlier because everybody knows what happens to costs over time, right? Costs only go up. Oh, and then we went into COVID and costs went. So this was deliberate planning on our part to make sure that we front-ended our bond work and our progress by getting those larger projects out earlier. And I'm very glad that we did that. That was to our advantage. This going back to the work Megan and her department did, we positioned ourselves for a successful sale of its bonds. We had a very strong credit rating at that time. That takes work to set that up. Our district showed a stability of enrollment. In the city of Greeley, we had a strong assessed value of growth. We had a diverse tax base, meaning it wasn't just residential, but in terms of industries and various industries and retail within the city of Greeley. Low level of existing debt within our district. So if you think about when you apply for credit, if you're gonna buy a house, what are the things you wanna make sure that you have in place? If you're gonna take out a mortgage, you wanna make sure that you have a strong credit rating. You wanna make sure that you have low level of existing debt. And so we were in a great position financially to pass the bond when we did. And so the bond sales, if you look on the top, our actual bond, we used the term 395 million. Well, it's 394, 364, 999 was the actual bond. And then if you look at our first sale was January 22. So circled in red. So we passed the bond in November. In that next January, we were ready, prepared, in line, in sync to sell bonds. And of all the districts that had bond sales during that year, we were first. We were the first out, which is also favorable. Okay, so we were first out, and then we had established all those other conditions within our district. And so we sold $250 million of our bonds and received proceeds of $63 million plus. Those $63 million go into the bond fund. And then the second bond sale was in July of 21, and we netted for almost $34 million of bonds there. So that's an addition of about $90 million that we could put back into our bond projects. And again, is that $1 billion? No, total, but it allowed us then to take that next step and look at what are those other things that we need to do. And some things, as I go through the projects, kind of happened along the way. So that gave us a total bond budget of $491 million plus. Okay? So this is a graph that just shows bond sales. So our bond dollars available is in the blue line, and this is Jeff's job. Jeff tracks this stuff. And then you can see where we made the bond sales, which are the spikes in the curve, all the way down to the red arrow, which is today, April, on the bottom, April 24. And then bond dollars spent as we've gone through the project. So you can see at the beginning, there was a lot of planning. Not a lot of spending at first because we were trying to get all those projects launched and out the gate. And then once construction starts, we start hitting those deadlines where we have to start spending money. And then this is another way to show, if you wanted to look at how many millions we've spent, how it's been divided up by month, again, since the beginning of the bond on the left. And then this is through March 1, so it stops at February. And then the red arrows are, for Megan's team, those are the year-end months. And so we try to get a lot of our invoices in by July so we can close out the year, and then it's kind of slow and then it picks up again. So that's kind of what a spending cycle looks like. Megan's really excited about this slide. And then bond proceeds. So when we went to CBOC, we would come up with funding that were additional to what we had in all those bond sheets. So things that were additional. Now, I will say we had some additional things that came up that, I mean, this has been 5 years. You know, in the 5 years, we've had a boiler or two puke out on us a little early. So, can I say that word in a board meeting? Okay. Kind of popped up on us early. So occasionally we had MLO money that we could use for some of those HVA emergencies, which would allow us to take it out of the bond, not cover it in bond, but use MLO. We also used ESSER money in a couple buildings that had to do with air quality, and we went through and replaced all the univents. That wasn't in our original bond. it was work that needed to be done, so we grabbed those additional funds to do it, which basically frees up bond money later. So there's some of that going on. So kind of what our guidelines were, some projects needed additional funding to complete. And I'll give you some examples of those. There was one right out of the gate that needed some help. Included additions for capacity in our security. So one of the missions of our bond issue was to get rid of temporary or portable classrooms, whatever you want to call them. We had 142 of those. We, in our bond language, we're only going to get rid of 33% of those per bond. With proceeds, you can see on the bottom right, we've hit 60% of those 142. So we're way ahead of that facility master planning committee from the community was very concerned about the number of those types of classrooms we had in our district. And when this is all done, I'll be very happy to go to them and show them the progress we made with that. And then including new builds. We had a school that got displaced. Fred Chartis got displaced in the middle of all this. We had nowhere to put them. And so we did some quick thinking, well, what if we need some CTE work over here? And then if we move Jefferson High School over here, in this spot, do a renovation and a build, then we can move Jefferson Junior over to the old Jefferson High School. And then Fred Chartis is in the coolest and oldest building that we have in the district. That was built 10 years before Greeley Central. And so it's like a living museum, is how I sold it to them. And they love it there, but that just happened that we needed a space for that school. And so we're able to use proceeds to do that. We already talked about that. So here's normally where I'd show you a whole lot of pictures. And I'm just going to go through the list very quickly. One thing, when we had the McAuliffe and the Chapello jobs on for additions and specialized additions, we really didn't have the budget to go through and modify or truly renovate the other halves of those buildings. And so early on, we saw that as a need, especially at Chapello. We were going to be short budget to do that. That if we're going to upgrade to LEDs and all this new stuff, we need to go back in the old and do more than carpet and paint. We need to do a little more upgrade there so the building looks whole. And so we asked for some additional money for McAuliffe. And so as an example, I really was nervous. That was the first time I'd asked them to approve that. And I didn't know how much. I asked for $5 million. I think I need $5 million to cover that. It ends up we only needed almost $2 million at the end when it all flushed out. So we had that extra $3 million to put back in the pool to do more work. Dos Rios Elementary renovation there. We just had some serious work there with the HVAC system, which put us over budget. And so that was like an extra $1 million to the project that we had laid out to complete that. The Franklin Middle School vestibule addition, Franklin was hurting so bad on adult space. And a lot of these buildings that we found, the vestibules, you can't just add one on. If we really wanted adjacent to the office, we need to do some movement. So there, we did a little bit of addition to get the counselors out of a closet that didn't even have an outlet for a light, and get some more space in the office, bring that out just a little bit, and then give them a secure vestibule. The Heath, you've been out to Heath, so you've seen those classroom additions, and that was all based on the proceeds. Meeker Elementary classroom addition, we got rid of 8 portable classrooms there. I believe Martinez Elementary classroom addition, we got rid of 8 portable classrooms there. We talked about the new CTE center. CTE was also a huge focus of the bond, so us being able to add those programs to that site has been a very good decision. The Montfort Elementary, at first we thought we'd have to do an addition because their office was in the middle, but really we just had to renovate a classroom or 2, bring the office to the front, renovate the old office into classrooms, and then renovate the building. That worked out really pretty well. Shawsheen Elementary, same thing. Office was in the middle of the school, so we're doing an office addition in that valley that used to go up to the front door, addition on there, and then renovating behind it. And then Jefferson Junior High, we're able to add, kind of renovate the old Jefferson High School, and then we have over there District 6 student access renovation for some programs for some of our students with special needs. Now we have a place to go for some of those programs. And then currently we're working on Brentwood and then Centennial. We'll have an office addition very similar to Shawsheen. So there's a fair amount of square footage in there in additional construction, and that was all based on, came out of proceeds, and it primarily was based on security first for a reason, and then security second by getting rid of portable classrooms and bringing those kids into brick and mortar. This was also something that proceeds were used for. So FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. You've been in all the schools, you've noticed the furniture. And really, the only furniture budgeted in the bond, in the original bond, was for those 5 new schools. So Chapello Edition, McAuliffe, the new K-8 wasn't called Toynton, it was called new K-8 on the bond, Madison and Greeley West High School. So very early, when we got into Jackson and Martinez, those are old buildings. They've been through a lot of wear and tear. We put in, we're looking at, we've got new carpet, new paint. These schools are really look great with that, but our furniture, you know, talk about 3-legged desks and 2-legged chairs. The furniture was in terrible shape. So we started going through and doing replacement furnitures with those buildings. And we've kept that through because furniture was one of those items, talk about $1 billion in needs. Furniture was one of those items where we were in terrible shape of our furniture. And so we have gone through our adjusted budget for that now is $23 million. And that has been proceeds. So when you think about equity in classrooms, when you go in these buildings and you see the entrances, the secure entrances, then you see the carpet down the hallway, and then you see in the classrooms, and there's a sense of similarity there. They all have office furniture. And as we bought office furniture, we tried to specialize it in, Megan's team was involved in the office or the furniture purchase. We tried to create spaces that were flexible and then made sure that we had flexible furniture in those flexible spaces so they didn't get choked off. So that has been a huge benefit in all of our buildings, that all of our classrooms, when we get done this summer, will look very similar and have very similar items in them, including furniture. So something we didn't plan on at the beginning, you never saw furniture in the bond. And so where are we at? So here's kind of a spreadsheet. If you look down at the bottom, you see this $3 million number up there, and at the top, you can see where the proceeds were added by the blue arrows. There's the 63 sale and the $33 million sale below it. And so this is what we've been working through with the proceeds, project by project. Jeff's very nice spreadsheet, Jeff. And so here's kind of where we're at. You can see that $3.3 million in the middle, the top box. That is kind of left. We haven't targeted that yet, so that's kind of sitting there. And then outstanding commitments in our GMPs, so we have contingencies in a lot of our projects that haven't been used yet, so it might be contractor contingency where, you know, it's in the contract there in case we need it, but oftentimes we don't, then that filters back into the bond, so that'll filter as a plus. And then career and college readiness balance, we've tried to keep that. Each school had a career and college readiness budget, and so we've kind of been tracking that through all this project. And we have about 1.3 million in that. And then it kind of feeds into our master budget, which today is about 7.25 million from when I made this slide. And so that's kind of our target, but it's moving a little bit. We may get more falling out of contingency that falls into it, and it could grow. More than likely, some of these green boxes down here change orders that come up in our remaining projects may occur. Unforeseen conditions, we have a situation at Toynton, which we're gonna have to go back and redo some things, which will cost us. Will come out of that as a cost, and then kind of what's left is future projects. So when we get down, we've done everything in our bond. Charter schools have done everything they have, we've done everything we have, then what's left? And then what do we want to do a little bit more? So in case you're wondering, 8.2, I'm looking at you, you're the mathematician, 8.2 million out of $495 billion.
4%.
What percent?
A little bit.
A little bit, that's good. It's like 1.5%.
Okay.
So we're down to, we're carrying about 1.5% of our bond issue left. And that's the amount of work that we've done in a little over 4 years.
So was that a use it or lose it type of thing, or are you able to carry that over past
No,
a certain date?
we can carry it. So we've been keeping lists and making lists, and like I said, $1 billion in need. We didn't get everything done everywhere, but we sure did a heck of a lot. And we did a lot more than we said we would. And so we'll look for some of those special things that maybe to come back to and do. And that's it. Taylor?
What is your disposal process then of getting rid of all the old furniture, chairs, and the portables? Are those even sellable at that point? Any of that?
So we went through a lot of different scenarios. So at first, at McAuliffe, we lucked out, we had somebody that wanted those, and those were truly on axles, weren't they? Some of them were. Some of them were on axles. So the deal was, you'd come get them.
The portables.
Yeah, they were portable, but they're not all portable.
Right.
Yeah, there's some that really aren't. And so we had a way of getting rid of them at that time. In other cases, we did have to move one from Greeley West to Madison. We needed an extra classroom during the construction. We moved one. What did that cost just to get it through the city? Was it 30, I think it was $30,000 for us just to move it, to use it a year. So it was really to our advantage. If somebody wanted them, they could have them. It wasn't worth our bill. We'd strip off everything we needed, cameras, doorknobs, whatever, and then let them go. But most often, most of those were not on axles, and they met the excavator and just tore them down, put them in a dumpster, in 2 days they're gone. In terms of furniture, we started out where there was a company that would come and get them, strip them down, throw them in containers, and ship them to South America or something. That happened one time. There's really not a value in the sales of that volume of furniture. So when we have paid to have companies come in, they will recycle them. There was a couple years though, but we have to pay for recycle. You know, so we'd have to pay if they went to Anderson's and they get chopped up in the metal, the plastic and stuff like that. So it's really more beneficial where we have companies take it and take it away and do whatever they want with it. It's to our advantage, because there's a cost in even recycling it.
Thank you.
How's the condition of our older buildings? You mentioned of Chartis's new location. How was that building, since it is so old? And also Greeley Central, do you know? Does that figure into any of this?
Yeah, those buildings are actually in pretty good shape. You know, there's parts of them that are old. And so like at Greeley Central, one of the first, which was not popular with the staff, if you remember, we put in new boilers in that building. You know, might think, hey, this is gonna keep it going for another 100 years. It's not a sexy repair, but you know, to keep the buildings going, we need to work on the envelope, the roof, keep it dry, keep it heated, keep it cool, and then everything from there. So they're in decent condition. We have some buildings that are in probably worse condition than Central or Cameron.
Do you have future projects in mind for that last 3 million?
Got a short list, but I can't really divulge it.
Oh, then you'd have to kill me.
We have a short list we'll have to make some decisions on. What's interesting in going through this process, every school was touched, I think, in a very positive way. But did everybody get everything? I would say even like the new schools, I'm like, are you kidding? You want that too? I mean, so there's always a list and there's always needs. But I want to wait and see what that number is when we come back so we can make good choices and we don't promise something that we won't be able to do.
And
'Cause
that'll
we still
all,
have to get through this summer yet.
yeah, and that'll shake out by the end of the summer, probably-ish.
Yeah, well, it takes 2 years to close our projects out. So, we'll have a better idea by the end of this summer, right, Jeff?
Any other questions?
I have a question for Doran. Because you used to serve on the bond oversight committee, right?
Oh, that was mill levy.
Oh, the mill
Mill levy
levy.
oversight.
Okay, different, similar,
I don't know if you have a question for one of these guys back here.
Thank you for serving them, Mike.
Yeah.
Yep, so it's been a lot of fun working with them. They've been very supportive of us. And appreciate all their time.
I've been very impressed by the work that's been done. A lot of building has been going on in the district, and again, just like transportation, it's hard for me to even wrap my mind around the scheduling and organization that had to take place in order to pull this off. So, very impressive.
A lot of work by a lot of people before the bond helped make this.
Ken, do you think you'll get to take a vacation this summer? I know you've been pretty hard at it for about 5 years.
Facilities over here should cover for them.
Good. Well, we thank you guys. I mean, it's an amazing effort. It really is hard to wrap your mind around, even though I've watched all the numbers for 5 years now. But yeah, almost $500 million to do that on time, on budget, to be able to do so much more than we ever thought we would do. And it really comes down to execution and the speed with which we sold bonds and the speed with which we started Greeley West. Because you didn't really mention it much, but we had a pandemic in the middle of this. Changed some things for us along the way for sure. So thank you guys.
Well, I think the cost per square foot for when we started, we need to be so thankful when we passed the bond, when we did, because the cost of square foot for those districts that are going out next year they're looking in the 500s.
$500 per square foot.
What was ours?
Excess of $500 per square foot.
Wow.
So
We're just embarking on a new project with 27J Brighton New High School, and they've budgeted $550 a square foot for construction. That doesn't include the soft cost. That's pretty skinny right now for what they want to do with that high school.
What were we, Michael asked?
we were, we ended up,
West with design build, including design, was about $450 a square foot. All in, we came just short of $500 a square foot.
So at least 20%.
yeah, that's
if
more
not
construction costs, yeah.
Any other questions, comments, guys? Well, we'll let you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll now debrief the work session. Get a longer dinner tonight, and we'll start with Mr. Ozari.
Well, I don't have a lot to say outside of what I've already said, and a lot of amazing work is going on in the school district. And I stand in awe of all the folks that have been involved and worked together to get it completed. So, and I'm hoping that we have a situation rise from House Bill 1448 for the school districts that need that. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dora. Kyle?
Yeah, not a whole lot to add, just a lot of thanks and kudos to the entire team, from Megan's team that handled procurement to Kent and the entire district and the community members that helped get the bond passed in the first place. It's been an amazing trip. There's no shortage of local heroes for sure. So thank you guys.
Rob?
I would agree. It's amazing all the things that they've got done in the last 5 years, and on the last leg is really amazing. And as I look forward to our calendar, we've got a busy month coming up, so graduations. For sure.
Brenda?
Yeah, so I didn't live through it like you all did of all the bond stuff and seeing every year and all the progress, but seeing it from the tail end, like, just really impressed. And all the foresight that went in even before the bond was passed, like Kent was saying, to make it as smooth of a process as it was, and that all our schools got new furniture. How cool is that? And I did just get to glance at this publication. I didn't know Teresa's here, but really beautiful publication here. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wrap my mind around how they even organized that and kept that going. I'm very much impressed with Kent. Every time he's done the presentations, it's amazing how much they've gotten done. But actually, I do have one question. I'm looking at the graduations, and it looks like we have 3 all starting within a little window, and I don't know if we have a representative going to each school on those ones, or if we even want to have a small discussion on that one.
I assume you're talking about Saturday, the 25th, which is actually 4 graduations that day.
Yeah, the 4th, because on the back. I don't know if we wanted to make sure we had somebody going to each.
So we typically have not always covered the charter school graduations that are on top of Greeley Central. However, if someone would like to go to those in lieu of going to Greeley Central or Greeley West, you're certainly welcome to do that. And I know they would welcome you. You probably won't make it to either Central or West graduations if you do one of the others. You won't. So
That's a Saturday, right?
Saturday the 25th.
I won't be to any of those, so.
Natalie and I will certainly be at Greeley Central that day, so.
And I'm
And I'll be at West.
the ambassador at West, so definitely, was planning on both Central and West.
I'll be at West as well, but would somebody like to take?
I do have a relative graduating from Central that I committed to going to.
Okay. Well, we typically have not been able to get to Union Colony. It's unfortunate, but it just, where they schedule that graduation, and that has been the case for at least 5 years, I would say, where that's been just right in the middle of the other two. And it's hard for us not to get to Greeley Central, Greeley West, and Northridge. There's 3, just because they're the biggest. Thankfully, Union Colony has their own board that can go to the graduation.
Right. We don't really have a role.
It's a little bit different
At
than
their
theirs.
board, at their graduations, but it's nice, like when universities in the evening, I think a few of us have
we've
tried to go to universities.
Generally had a good
Evening.
presence at
Yeah.
university. I've gone to Frontier before. It's always a great graduation as well.
Hopefully I'll be at universities next year.
That's right. And university has, at times in the past, had school board members shake hands, so they do it differently, different years.
All right, Ms. Mesh.
Yeah, I think I'm not a person with vision, so it has been really fun. I mean, like, this goes here and that, anytime we looked at a house, it was like, I can't imagine knocking out walls and things like that. So I'm so very glad that we have people with the creativity and the vision, and it's just been fun to hear the things that have made this project so successful, like buying so many things in bulk so that we had our own, we didn't have to individually buy the carpet for each and every project. We had, I think, I hope I'm saying that right, but it sounded like we had the ability to store some of those materials so that we weren't on the back foot. I think just looking forward, looking ahead seems to be the biggest thing I hear. The planning was so well done in advance that allowed this project, these 37 projects to go so smoothly. So yeah, we had the right people in place, and that is really exciting and also really hopeful for when we need to do another one someday. So yeah, thank you for that update, and I enjoy seeing all of your spreadsheets and color coding. It makes it really easy to see the project's progression. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the most comprehensive update we've gotten on the financial piece of this. And oftentimes we get updates on what's happening at each school, but I think that's the most, and I guess it's clearer now, how much we've spent. Not what we're going to spend, but what we actually have spent. And so it's great to see. And thank you for the update. And that's all we have for tonight. Oh, sorry, Natalie, I forgot you.
I don't know, just I guess a little fun fact. 5 years ago, when the district was talking about 4C, I was selected to be a representative for McAuliffe, and so I remember, like when I saw the logo of it, it clicked in my head that I had talked about McAuliffe, and I don't know, it's just been cool to see throughout like my high school career and like my a little bit of 8th grade year, seeing all the new buildings, West obviously, and stuff like that. And so I don't know, I grew up in construction because of my dad. He works in construction, and so I always had a passion for this. It's something that I also think about for like college and stuff, or career wise, and I don't know, maybe it's something that I'm passionate about, but it was just very interesting to see.
Thank you. Dr. Pilch, did you have anything?
Thank you. I said plenty.
Well, thank you, and our meeting is adjourned.